There are so many of us that are in search of peace, fulfillment, joy, purpose, and meaning in life. In order for us to truly find it, we must first find our spiritual center. In this brief presentation, I want to talk about how all of us can find our spiritual center. At the heart of Catholic spirituality is our participation in the life of God, which first began at the time of our baptism. When we were baptized, we were grafted onto Jesus Christ. We became the adopted sons and daughters of God the Father. That's why Paul says in 1 Corinthians, "It is no longer I who lives, but Christ who lives in me." Paul realized that at baptism, our life is now orientated towards Christ. Paul continues on in Corinthians and he says, "Put on Christ." To do that means we must allow Jesus Christ to be the Lord of our life in such a way that it is Christ to whom our life is ordered to. And you see, when Jesus Christ is the center of our life, then all other things in our life fall into place. Then all the other things that we have in our life, our career, our marriage, our relationships, our family, our friends, all are in harmony. Christ once said in John's Gospel, chapter 15, "I am the vine and you are the branches. Remain in me as I remain in you. Just as a branch cannot bear fruit on its own unless it remains on the vine, so neither can you unless you remain in me." This metaphor underscores Jesus' union with us and our absolute dependence upon him for sheer life. At the heart of the spiritual life is the fact that Christ wants to live his life in us. Therefore, Jesus is asking us to make a metaphysical change. Christ's thoughts are now our thoughts. His movements are our movements. His feelings are our feelings. Jesus Christ's decisions are now our decisions. You see, when that happens, then yes, we truly bear fruit. The fruit of an inner peace, a sense of purpose and fulfillment in our life. We bear this fruit because Jesus is at the center of our life. And yet, what's the potential problem that many of us fall into? It's when something other than Christ is at the center of our life. Whatever it may be, whatever it is in this world, our career, fame, fortune, notoriety, when that becomes the center of our life, that's when we have deep anxiety. That's when we have deep unhappiness. Great example of this is the character Tony Soprano from the TV show The Sopranos. Here, Tony has everything that our society tells us will naturally make us happy. Wealth. Tony has all the wealth that he can muster. He lives in a great mansion. He's surrounded by cars, boats. He has everything money can buy. Pleasure. Tony has access to every type of pleasure known to man. Sensual, sexual, any kind of pleasure. He's always living the high life. Power. Tony has incredible and extraordinary power, not just to beat people up and to murder them, but he's got political power. He's got clout within his community. He has an enormous amount of power. People respect him, even are terrified of him. Yet throughout this show, constantly, Tony is experiencing depression, severe anxiety attacks. He's never truly and genuinely happy. It doesn't make sense. He's got everything that our society tells him should make him happy, but he's just the opposite. He's constantly depressed and filled with anxiety. Why is this? St. Augustine gives us the answer. He says, "Lord, you have made us for yourself, and therefore our hearts are restless until they rest in you, my God." St. Augustine knew that we are made in the image and likeness of God. Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. And therefore, if we are made in the image and likeness of God, we have an infinite longing for the divine. And that longing can never, ever be satisfied by anything in this world. Only God and God alone can satisfy that infinite longing that we have. And only God and God alone can bring us true joy, true fulfillment, and peace in life. Therefore, what does it require? For us to attach that infinite longing onto God. When we do that, then yes, St. Augustine says, we will have peace, fulfillment, and joy in life. Now, does that mean we'll live a life of complete bliss and never experience any challenge or hardships in our life? No, just turn to the lives of the saints. The saints were constantly experiencing difficulties and challenges in their lives. St. Paul suffered numerous beatings, stonings, and even shipwrecks. St. Francis of Assisi, who embraced a life of extreme poverty. Look at St. Therese of Lisieux, who at a very early age contracted tuberculosis and suffered many years with the disease before she died. Look at Mother Teresa, who for decades worked with the poor and the destitute in the streets of not just Calcutta, but throughout the world. These people suffered very much on behalf of Jesus Christ. Yet if you look at their lives and you read the stories about them, these people were people of joy and peace because their lives were ordered to Christ, and Christ was the center of their life. And therefore, everything that they experienced, including the most difficult challenges they experienced, were now in harmony with Jesus Christ as the center of their life. In fact, one could easily argue that it was because Christ was the center of their life that they were able to persevere and overcome their challenges. Remember in Mark's Gospel, chapter 4, in which the apostles are in the boat with Jesus, and all of a sudden a storm kicks up. Christ is asleep in the midst of the storm. In this story, Christ represents a place of peace, even through a storm. Jesus is peaceful enough to sleep through the storm. And yet, what are the apostles doing? They have lost their center. They are preoccupied. Their focus is now on the storm, on the waves, the wind, and therefore they wake Jesus up in a great deal of panic. Jesus calms the storm, and then he says to the apostles, "Where is your faith?" The storms are a symbol of all the challenges that we may face in our life, whether it's poor health, unemployment, strained relationships at home or with friends, whatever it is, we face storms or challenges in life. And yet, if Christ truly is at the center of our life, then we will have peace. Finally, to have Jesus Christ as the center of our life means now that we are committed to nurturing that relationship that we have with Him. It requires a daily prayer life, an active sacramental life, the corporal and spiritual works of mercy, reading and studying Scripture. These are all ways in which now we nurture that center. We nurture the relationship that we have with Jesus Christ, and it grows and becomes stronger and stronger. Each and every one of us has an infinite longing for the divine, for God in our life. Therefore, attach that longing to God, and then we will have a sense of peace and joy always in our life, despite the challenges. Then we have truly found our spiritual center.